Hello, my friends. I saw two messages the other day that really heartened me. And one of them was from the Pope. The other one was from Dr. John Campbell, who I've been watching on YouTube now and again to keep up with the coronavirus. What struck me about this is that both of these people were speaking of what the world could look like on the other side of this. And both of them were considering many of the same things. I personally have hope that we come out the other side of this wiser, more compassionate, and with some awareness of how the society we've structured has failed us in this time, and how we could restructure it to be more effective. And they were talking about a whole variety of things. From John Campbell was talking about having windows in every hospital room so that they could be opened up and fresh air could come in. He was talking about schools, how we pack our kids into these tight rooms where something like the virus can very easily spread. And they were both talking about restructuring our society so that it is centered around people and a positive connection with the environment, rather than structured around money. See, to me, what we've seen here is that for a long time now, instead of structuring our society around what's going to work best for people, what's going to work best for the environment that we all depend on for our very existence, instead we've built societies around what will be best for money generation. Now, the US just did a $2.2 trillion stimulus package. Forgive me if my numbers are off here, but I remember when Andrew Yang was running and he was talking about doing a universal basic income. And he said, this could be done, but it will be paid for with a VAT tax. And people were saying, well, that's over $1 trillion a year. That's just not going to work. Now, the United States just did this $2.2 trillion stimulus package. And that's 2 years of Yang's UBI. But there was no tax to pay for it. In other words, the government just printed up a whole bunch of bills. Now, what that does, and many of you are familiar with how money works, and that the money is not real wealth. I'm not going to go into all the techniques about this. Some of you could speak about it much better than I do, and hopefully will in the comments. But when we just print up money, it exposes the farce. It exposes the illusion. And it shows that, wow, this is a little strange that I could spend my life, which many people do, working really, really hard, using all their human potential and energy to pay off some debt to a credit card company, when the reality is that the money can just be printed up. It's just printed up and handed out. And in this case, citizens will get a little bit over $1,000 per adult once. But the bulk of it is going towards mega corporations. And mega corporations have shown themselves twice now in a pretty short period in the US, where they've had to have major bailouts, that they're not resilient, that they can't hold up under pressure. It struck me the other day that if the world was composed only of tiny little businesses, that those are much more resilient. I think of ReWild University. So if there are no students coming, that, which I can't have any students or forest monks out right now, that does affect me as a person, so there's not that income. However, the business itself doesn't really have any overhead, so it can just start up again next year. There's a lot of really small home businesses like that that won't be impacted in the same way as the airlines or other big businesses that have huge infrastructure to try to uphold. So what we've seen is that we've built a system that if it doesn't just feed the money, if it's not built around money, it's going to fall and tumble. And how long are we going to keep propping it up by printing up imaginary money, imaginary wealth? That system doesn't go on forever. Now, especially when people start to see it as the farce it is, and when you're being asked to trade your life energy to uphold that farce. We need a new way of doing things that is centered around people and relationship to the environment. I was so excited to see that from the Pope and from John. And hopefully that will keep spreading and people will think, what kinds of changes could we make that would make this world more workable for all of us? I'm going to end this with something that may seem tangential, but it's important because it brings it right home to all of us. As you know, I try to answer every comment that comes in on this YouTube channel. When I looked the other day, I saw, oh, there's these little smart replies below your comments. So that all I have to do is hit a little smart reply and it says, wow, that sounds great, or super cool, or I don't think so. This has been on my Google email too. These little buttons that you can hit to reply without really replying. Now, I'm a little bit of a what's the word here? A hypocrite here, because there are those little heart buttons that you can hit on YouTube, and I've been using those sometimes. To me, those are more of an emoticon, which adds to the words. But I'm never going to use those auto smart replies. And why? Because here is an example of how our technology can be used to make us less human. It's saying that the reply that you put in there, the comment that you leave, it's not really worth me giving it that much attention to type a few words. The smart replies are all really short. So can't I type the word, hey, that's awesome? Because when I do that, there's a feeling or an emotion behind it that I put into it. And even though we are not connecting directly face to face, I think in some ways you can tell. You can tell that I care about you, that I am reaching out to you and trying to forge as much of a connection as we can through this medium. These examples will come up again and again in our lives as technology progresses. Things to make our life simpler, but that dehumanize us, that lead us more towards a society, an economy that isn't centered around people, connection with our environment. These little choices might seem like they're insignificant, but they are significant because they disconnect us slowly, bit by bit, from each other and from the world. I would urge all of us to notice and share in the comments your thoughts about other places you have seen technology that dehumanizes us, and cultural things that dehumanize us. Where can we humanize and environmentalize our world so that we once again are resilient? We once again are connected and compassionate. We're not looking at each other and saying, you are some label, so thus I don't see you as a human being anymore. We look in the environment and we just say, there's resources for my disposal. Instead of, here's a vibrant, living ecosystem that if I live in connection with it, I will be more vibrant and more alive. Share your thoughts, my friends. As always, I so value you here and so value your comments and all the thoughts that you put into it. Boy, I tried to be outside today. I can feel my Hawaii self. I put on my tank top and thought, oh, I'm gonna go out. Jeez, I've got a cold condition. I'll tell you what. Woo! Love to you all. See you tomorrow.